Hi, I'm Mike with Pinnacle. Today we have the video that everybody's been waiting for, ASKO dryer belt replacement. In this video we're going to talk about a couple different things, but in the beginning I'm going to talk about what steps need to be taken to get to that dryer belt to replace it. So first you're going to remove the top, then you're going to remove the right side panel. Then you're going to remove the rear panel, but only the screws down the right side. Then you have a support bar that goes from front to rear. You're also going to remove the front side or the rear side of that. Once you get to that point, you're going to spin the machine around. You're going to take off your blower housing and your rear bearing. Once you get to that point, you're set for the replacement. First step, dryer belt replacement, is removing the top panel. A couple screws on the back side and this will be removed. All right, next we're going to remove the right side panel. Remember, you have a couple screws underneath and then only the screws up the left side of this rear panel. Now that you have all the screws out from around this side panel, you have two T15 screws that hold your electronics to the side panel. Start with your side panel, pull from the rear first. It's held on by two little clips on the front side. Now that we have our side panel removed, you can see your belt located here, going down around your motor shaft. We're going to go ahead and remove all the screws around the blower housing. Now that you have all the screws out of your blower housing, you should be able to remove that, which gives you access to your blower wheel and your heating element. Next, we're going to remove the heating element and that blower wheel. Now that we have it down to this part, we're going to go ahead and take off your blower wheel. And now we're going to take off your rear bearing assembly. Be careful when you're removing this rear bearing assembly. You have a graphite brush here which completes the circuit for your moisture sensor inside the drum here. This is spring loaded. If you let this go, it will shoot out across the room. You have access to your rear bearing. Now your drum sits through your rear panel. Lastly, we're going to move back to the side so we can access the drum and the belt. And I'm going to remove the two screws on the back side of your support beam. Now with this access, we can slip the belt between the drum and the rear panel and install your belt. So as you can see that we already have a belt installed on here, so I'm going to go ahead and remove this to the point to where we have the belt slipped around the drum. All right, now that we've got ourselves prepared to install the belt on the dryer, we have the back fully removed, we have the side fully removed, and we have enough room in between the two so we can slip our belt up the rear. And remember, we always have to have this tool to mount onto the motor shaft on these particular dryers so that way the shaft doesn't bend as you're installing this belt on this dryer. I'm going to give you a quick little tip. On condensate dryers and heat pump dryers, you will not have this ability to put the belt in through the rear. There will be plastic housing here with the shaft of the motor going through the hole of that housing. If you pinch your belt, push it through the small hole of the housing, you can fish your belt up through the backside without any fuss or fighting. Now that our belt is around the motor shaft, we can work with it around the rest of the drum. But first, we're going to install our tool. Slip it around the backside of the motor shaft. This is going to keep it rigid to the base, so that way it does not bend. What happens if this bends, once we put our blower wheel back on, the blower wheel is going to rub on the housing and it's going to make an awful noise. So you must use this tool. Once this belt is on, this tool is to be removed. It is not to be left on there. It is just to install the belt. So here we are. We have the belt ready to go. I'm going to go ahead and fish this through the rear panel and the drum itself. So now that we have our belt laying on top of our drum, it is not wrapped around anything. It is not tight on this drum just yet. We're going to go ahead and 100% reassemble this. We're going to put on the rear bearing. We're going to put on the blower wheel. And we're going to assemble everything to the point to where we can put this belt on and have everything already be in place. And then we're going to reinstall the side panel and the top panel, and your job is complete. So first step, we're going to want to get to the back side. We're going to reassemble our bearing. First step, you have your bearing. You have your bearing cover. These holes are keyed. They need to line up specifically to the actual holes on the machine here. You have your graphite brush you need to reinstall. Remember, this is spring loaded. So now we're going to go ahead and put our bearing back together. First, you're going to insert your bearing. And you got the bearing cover. The washer nut. And your actual nut. I like to assemble it like this first, so that way all the pieces are in place for you to attach your graphite brush. All right, now that we have our bearing in place, and the drum is not going to drop down when we put the pressure of the belt on there. We're going to go ahead and put the belt around the motor shaft. So you're going to want to make sure you have your tool installed. There is a little hook on the bottom here where a screw hole normally goes for your blower wheel housing cover. You can hook it right inside of there. Now we're going to grab this belt that we just left laying inside of here. And we're going to assure that the back side of the belt is around the back side of the drum. And we're going to pull ourselves tight. Again, you can put some tape on here and you can rock this the other direction, or you can simply just grab this belt and use the leverage of the drum now that it's attached with the bearing on the front side and the back side, and allow this drum to rotate and use all the force of the drum and leverage of the drum to continue to rotate this belt around and into place. You want to make sure that the belt follows and sits in the ridges of the motor shaft and not too close to the motor and to cause a premature belt failure. You have successfully just installed a belt on an ASKO dryer. Now we're going to simply put everything back together and test the product. Now we're ready to go ahead and reassemble everything. First step, I'm going to go ahead and put the heater housing back in place. Make sure you take off your bracket. We install our blower wheel. These are keyed, they will only fit on there one direction. Now you can see, just a simple turn of this, we have no rubbing because the motor shaft was not bent during the installation of your belt. Move to the side bracket, support bracket. I'm going to reconnect any wiring that you disconnected to gain yourself some room so you can slip the belt behind the drum and the back panel. And then we're going to go ahead and reattach our side panel. And lastly, you're going to reattach the blower wheel housing cover. Now we're going to go ahead and remount our electronic control board. And then you're ready to install the top.